This is Linux In-Laws, a podcast on topics around free and open source software, any associated contraband, communism, the revolution in general, and whatever else fancies your tickle. Please note that this and other episodes may contain strong language, offensive humor, and other certainly not politically correct language. You have been warned. Our parents insisted on this disclaimer. Happy, Mum? Thus, the content is not suitable for consumption in the workplace, especially when played back on a speaker in an open plan office or similar environments. Any minors under the age of 35, or any pets, including fluffy little killer bunnies, your trusted guide dog, unless on speed, and cute T-Rexes or other associated dinosaurs. Welcome to Linux In-Laws, Season 2, Episode 31. Martin, how are things tonight?
Yeah, things are great. We're looking forward to the politics podcast.
Why?
Well, we have some guests that want to talk politics, I believe.
Do we now?
That's what I've been told. Yeah.
Donald, welcome to the show. No, dear audience, do not press stop. Do not press skip, fast forward, or whatever. No. We don't have Donald Trump on the show, but rather some very interesting people who gonna talk about a specific programming language and maybe even an IDE corresponding to the programming language. But before we get this even more wrong, let them introduce themselves. Hadi and Sebastian, over to you.
Well, you mentioned my name first, so I guess it's me first. Sorry, Seb. My name is Hadi Hariri. I currently work at Jetbrains. I've been working here for the past 15 years. And I don't know what else. I like Eminem, I guess. That's my bio.
Okay.
Probably worth mentioning in your podcast, no?
We gotta get into that in a minute, I suppose. Sebastian, over to you.
Yeah, hi. My name is Sebastian Aigner. I'm a developer advocate for Kotlin and everything around Kotlin, which nowadays seems to be quite a lot, actually. I've been at JetBrains for about 6 years. I fell in love with Kotlin a whole bit earlier, and I am one of the hosts of the Talking Kotlin podcast, alongside a bunch of other like YouTube shenanigans that we do for the official Kotlin YouTube channel and a whole bunch of other things.
Excellent. And before we go further, for the two people in the audience who do not know, as in have been living under a rock for the last 10, 15 years, who do not know what JetBrains is, never mind Kotlin, maybe you can shed some light on these two items.
I'll
Sure.
let the guy with the 15-year experience answer that one.
Oh, God. Yes, JetBrains, we make developer tools. We started as a company that made a single tool called Renamer, which then transformed into IntelliJ IDEA, which is a Java, JVM, polyglot, everything IDE. And currently we have like 20, 30 different IDEs and tools. And in addition, back in 2010, we started a programming language called Kotlin, which is we wanted a better language for ourselves to develop server-side tools. And that's how it was born. And now everyone that I talk to, they're like, oh, yeah, that's for Android, isn't it? No, it's not. So, yeah, that's JetBrains / Kotlin. Kotlin is a polyglot, multi-platform language, not necessarily for Android.
Kotlin goes back about now, recording this in the year 2054, if I recall correctly, according to the schedule that Marketing sent this afternoon, because I'm losing track of time. So Kotlin has been around for the last 44 years, no jokes aside. The first commit, I think, took place in 2009, which is a very interesting time because Mozilla at the very same time published the first commit of a programming language called Rust. Google did something called Golang, and JetBrains did something called Kotlin.
Here's an interesting bit. Swift didn't appear until a whole lot later, even though we have the delight of being compared to Swift all the time. even though we did start a little earlier.
So, I mean, what was the rationale for Jetbrains to come up with a new programming language? Because all the other institutions, companies, organizations, whatever you want to call them, came up with also new kids on the block.
So, as I said, we were, I mean, to give you a little bit more context, we generally had two stacks back then, and we generally still have more or less two stacks. One of the stacks was the JVM and the other one was .NET. And we had in .NET, there's the main de facto language is C#. And then we had on the JVM, the main language was Java. And we, as the developers within the company, we were looking at new languages to which we could use to develop our tools. And we do use some languages, mostly to also kind of dog food the support that we provide for those languages. So at the time, we were looking for a more modern language, so to speak, that would run on the JVM, that would be compatible with Java, interoperable with Java. And there wasn't much in terms of choice. There was the Scala language, which had its issues in terms of interoperability and some would say complexity of the language. And there was Ceylon, which was something that we looked at heavily, and we even talked to the folks behind it to see if we could collaborate, but they wanted to go in a different direction to what we wanted to go. And we thought, okay, well, we make developer tools. We were looking for something ourselves. Why not actually make a programming language that could help developers, with the same mentality and ideas that we have in mind for our IDEs, which is making developers more productive, making developers more efficient, getting rid of the mundane work and the repetitive work. Why don't we try and create something? And that's what we basically did. That's how it was born, essentially, the idea.
I mean, interesting. Sorry, Sebastian, go ahead.
Yeah, we're also, like, as JetBrains, we're kind of in a bit of a unique position, right? Because if you're building IDEs, you're looking at formal languages like all day, right? Like you're writing parsers, like you're trying to build PSI program structure interfaces, which are like our abstractions for how we represent your code in as like actual data structures. And there was a lot of knowledge around how languages work and how languages are tooled that also played into this overall like kind of unique combination, right? Like we had a bunch of people who essentially wrote not exactly compilers and didn't exactly design languages, but they were very heavily involved with how the intricacies of programming languages work, how you would write tools around them, and that kind of also gave us a little bit of motivation to say, like, hey, we are the right people to build a language because we have all this knowledge bundled together.
On the subject of IDEs, I mean, where did that come from, and how do you there's obviously PyCharm for Python, there's VS Code that lots of people use. How does that landscape evolve, just irrespective of Kotlin right now, in your opinion?
Sorry, Mark, before the guys answer that, did Jetbrains pay their sponsoring bills? Because if they did, we could mention more IDEs produced by them, like PHP Storm and all the rest of them. No, I'm joking. Go ahead. Sorry.
So the question was, like, how did the IDEs come about, or what? I didn't quite get the question.
No, it's how has that whole IDE landscape evolved, right? Because you're one of the. I don't know. I'm just trying to remember if you're one of the first ones, probably similar kind of time as PyCharm, maybe. Don't know. It's hard to remember that far back. That whole IDE landscape has evolved, right? So you get more generic ones with plugins these days, and being specific for Python, like PyCharm, for example, right? And how do you see that going forwards? Is that a dying market, the language specific IDE, or is that something that's going to live on forever, in your opinion?
Well, I mean, I think it's a little bit of a mix, right? So first and foremost, IntelliJ IDEA is a polyglot IDE. So if we're actually trying to make comparisons to something like VS Code, you get the same ability to create create applications, but to work with many languages and many frameworks within a single IDE, which is IntelliJ IDEA Ultimate. Like, you can use any language you want within IntelliJ IDEA Ultimate, with a few rare exceptions. So that is there, and for people, and there's many of our users that use that. But then what we started to find is that there are folks that are working with a specific language, and when you have a generic IDE that serves many things, it's not going to cater to the needs of a single persona. And in fact, if any of you have used something like Visual Studio in the early days, the first time you would launch Visual Studio, I'm not talking about code, I'm talking about Visual Studio, the BMOF or whatever we want to call it.
Mammoth.
Yeah, Mammoth. Yeah, it used to prompt you and say, like, what kind of developer are you? Right? Are you a C# developer, or are you a web developer? What are you? And then based on that, and I mean, like, I think there was even an F#. Are you an F# developer? And then you would pick it and would say, no, you can't be, because there's only 3 of them in the world. But jokes aside there, it would cater a little bit the environment to what you would expect as a web developer, or as a C# developer, as a VB developer. And so that's what we offer with our specialized IDEs. If you're a Python developer and you're working mostly with Python, whether it's Data, whether it's Django, or Flask, or any of the other frameworks, you maybe don't care about Java, maybe don't care about the latest JavaScript framework that's appeared the next morning. And so we cater the environments to you as a Python developer. And that's our offering. And then a few years ago, I can't remember when, but it was back, I think, 7 or 8 years ago, or 9 years ago, we made a switch to the subscription model. And during that switch also, what we did is we created this concept of the All Products Pack, which was essentially, you get all of our IDEs, and then you can use whatever you want when you want. And I don't know if any of you have ever used the Toolbox, but even in the Toolbox application, which we have now, which is an application that you can essentially launch, and from there it's a launcher for all our IDEs. There's this concept of not even thinking about the IDE. There's this concept of just thinking about the project. And then if you open a project, it will open the corresponding IDE that you had for that project. So we're catering to both kind of audiences, right? At the end of the day, it's kind of like, what do you want? Even folks that work on microservices that have 5 or 6 different types of languages, they could probably use something like IntelliJ IDEA Ultimate.
Just to stay on the subject of IDs, just briefly, are you interested in discussing the elephant in the room, as in what you do with AI in terms of your IDE? Or shall we skip that one?
I mean, this is getting juicy. Go ahead, if you can.
The elephant in the room. Sorry, I'm because I'm getting a little bit of cut in the connections at times. So,
okay.
Yeah.
So the elephant in the room being AI, right? That's obviously the sort of
AI. Well, sorry, What's AI? What do you mean by AI?
Well,
right.
code generation type stuff.
Okay, so here's the thing. JetBrains has had AI in it forever. I mean, JetBrains, right?
Seriously?
Yeah. The word brains has AI in it.
Of course. Well,
who needs AI when you have brains?
Anyway, yes. But I mean, jokes aside, can you elaborate on the history in that case? Because that really sounds interesting.
Okay, so I mean, look, what are we talking about in terms of AI? Like, if we're talking about right now, AI is everything, right? And then you can talk about AI in terms of machine learning. You can talk about it in terms of LLM. You can talk around, the specifics of how it's implemented or what it's trying to do. But there's going to come a point where AI is going to be like the internet, which is like no one ever is going to mention it anymore. Like in the early days, it's like My software, connects to the internet. How do you know? Because it sends email, right? And the thing back then, 20 years ago, was every software that sends email is awesome. And like there was this internet enabled, right? This is the phase. This is the honeymoon phase that I think we're going through right now with AI. Okay, it's a phase of like, yeah, AI is we have AI. Sure, 2, 3, 4, 5 years from now, I think it's just going to become a commodity, and it's just going to become a feature. And then if we're talking about what it's trying to offer us, it's trying to offer us intelligence, it's trying to offer us ways to make us more productive. Sure, in the sense of LLMs and machine learning, until a few years ago, we didn't show anything publicly, although we had been working on it privately for a long time. But if you look at the intelligence that we've had from pretty much day one in our tools, with over 2,000 or 3,000 inspections alone in trying to detect anomalies in your code, in trying to detect issues in your code, in very advanced, powerful refactorings, this is essentially the same kind of functionality or features that people are now looking for when we're talking about AI. Yeah, now we're in the phase of generative AI, but the core principle has been there. The only difference is that the other stuff is very deterministic. What we have now is, flip a coin and see what you get that day.
But even go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead, Seb. Go ahead.
Yeah, like even if we kind of look back historically, we used machine learning and artificial intelligence in places where they were just part of the features. It didn't have like a little like sparkle emoji next to it to indicate that it's AI, which has now become the universal symbol, it feels like. Instead,
are you implementing this one as well?
So far our generative tooling has a nice little swirl, like a little galaxy.
Okay, go for
so we're totally differentiated here. No, but historically, if you typed into your IDE and you were writing some Java code or some Kotlin code or whatever, the ranking for the suggestions, that was actually like a machine learning model that was running on your device that was doing the ranking to make sure you get something that's semantically relevant and not just like alphabetically sorted by available in scope. That is one of the parts. The other like part where this becomes like pretty where it's more tangible, so it's a nice way of talking about this. If you were using uTrack, that's like our issue tracking solution, where you can have new issues, you can link them together, you can triage things and so on. We also had a part of this which was similarity analysis. So you would kind of have clusters of issues that would kind of belong to each other, which as a result means if someone starts to log a new issue, you can provide them with helpful hints, such as hey, this seems really similar to this issue that someone else reported like 2 days ago. Maybe you just want to head over there and like give it an upvote so that like things kind of stay cohesive, that they kind of stay together and you don't have to like triage a bunch of duplicates manually. Those were all things where like we were, I think, definitely ahead of the curve when it comes to deploying these things. Personally, I just also really love the fact that like from the very beginning, we also did some like edge ML like on device compute, which was always fun.
Swinging back to Kotlin just for a split second there, although I do like the discussion, but I want to shed some more light on Kotlin. Java, since its inception, is probably fair to say in the 90s, as in when James Gosling first designed the language, was confined to a tiny sector of the industry, namely enterprise programming as an enterprise software, because this is where they all started. And is to say these companies had the money to pour these funds into hardware that would be able to run JVMs. I reckon it's fair to say that the breakthrough really came with Android, because Android or Andrew chose Java as the main ecosystem for mobile programming. And then about 10, 15 years later, Kotlin surfaces. was the intention actually to as in when Kotlin was first devised, was Kotlin actually, was it intended to kind of amend or even replace Java in the mobile ecosystem?
Absolutely not. Like the idea of mobile development didn't even cross people's minds. And this is the irony of like it's the curse and the blessing. The blessing is that Google blessed us or adopted or praised us or worked with us and eventually has made Kotlin the default language for Android development. The curse is that people think that Kotlin is an Android language, and it is not. It was only, I don't know how many months had gone past or when this happened that someone had posted on a forum saying, hey, I've tried the language with Android and it's giving me some issues. And the team looked at it and they're like, okay, well, this isn't a big deal. I think we can fix this. And from there, because of the circumstances, which was at that time, Java didn't have lambdas. Java was very verbose. And other features that we had in Android, it started to get the attention of the Android community. But it was never an Android. Like Android didn't even cross people's mind when we were talking about developing this language.
So the intention was actually to develop a general purpose language for the middle tiers, for the backends, and all the rest of them?
Absolutely, yes. It was to create an industrial language that you could use in everyday applications, no matter what type of applications you wanted to create. Android, no, because no one was thinking about Android.
Yeah, and I mean, again, like there was also certainly a bit of an egoistic motive behind this as well. Like we have a whole ton of code at Jetbrains that we would like to write in a productive manner, in like a fast manner, in a manner where we as developers get to express ourselves in a convenient manner. And we didn't find that elsewhere. So we also wanted to build something for developers at Jetbrains to be productive, no matter what like tool they work on.
So it was intended to be an in-house project rather than to kind of to be in the public domain? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, of course. Yes, that was one of the motivations. Yes,
I see.
But it didn't make sense to create a language just for us, right? And it certainly didn't make sense to create a language that was closed source. I mean, you would only do that if you were Apple. And people would say, oh, that's awesome. That's brilliant. Because let's not forget that Apple didn't actually make many of their languages open source until later on. So, yeah, we knew that we had to make it open source. And we knew that just using this in a vacuum made no sense. So we wanted to offer it to the world. But yes, we were one of the main customers or users, so to speak.
And how did Google come across that technology?
It was mostly promoted by the community. The community and was started to pick up on Kotlin. They really liked it. Then there was a few key members in the community that are quite vocal and well respected and have done a lot around Android that started to promote it. One of them was Jake Wharton, who works at Square Block, or whatever it's called, or Cash App nowadays. And, Google started to see that the community is gaining traction. And then also what happened is that as we started to use Kotlin ourselves, we started to push Kotlin files in IntelliJ Community Edition, right? And Android Studio is built on IntelliJ Community Edition. And so folks at Google are like, wait, what's this file called KT? And that starts to spark interest. And I think that Yeet Bogart from Google, in fact, we did a podcast with him on Talking Kotlin, was the first person from Google that actually committed some Kotlin code to IntelliJ community from the Google side. And so it was very community driven, grassroots, and Google couldn't ignore it any longer. And there was demand to, hey, look at Kotlin, look, it's awesome. You should talk to the Jetbrains folks. You should work something out. And that's how it started.
Very interesting remarks. So let's talk about the second elephant in the room, the 2019 announcement by Google. When preparing for this podcast, I heard quite a few rumors that this announcement was actually quite expensive for JetBrains. The revelations that you have made now, you didn't have to pay an awful lot of money for this announcement to Google.
Pay money? I don't know. Wait. I don't know. I mean, I have heard so many rumors of Google.
So it's just a vicious urban myth. Is that what I'm hearing?
Listen, the amount of times that I have heard that Google is paying millions of dollars to JetBrains for building on IntelliJ Community Edition and for Kotlin is just I should probably charge money every time I hear this, right? And people should actually look at the licenses of these things. They're Apache too. So first of all, no, Google is not paying us any money to use these products. But this is the first time I have actually heard that we paid Google for the announcements, which is like, it's funny. It is funny.
No, I mean, there was a, and of course, links were in the show notes. There was an announcement, or there was an interview at some stage done by JetBrains that actually they expect Kotlin to facilitate more IDE sales in terms of making more money by the IDE. So I reckon that this is exactly where this I reckon vicious rumor or maybe even, I don't know, a myth started, that somebody said, now look, if JetBrains is expecting more revenue from IDE sales, they probably did bribe Google to make that announcement. But of course, apparently this is all false, right?
Totally. So that we didn't even bribe them. We actually locked them in a room and we said, you're not getting out until you make that announcement. No, that did not happen.
Oh,
by the way,
them.
Yeah.
That's even better.
Yeah. By the way, it's funny that you mentioned that because just the other
people, you heard it here first. Google was kidnapped.
For the people that are listening to this, that was a joke. I know that everyone takes everything seriously nowadays. Just a disclaimer. That was a joke. But jokes aside, the other day I saw a blog post about someone's feedback about Kotlin after using it for years. And one segment of the blog post was like, of course, there's the conspiracy theorists that are saying that JetBrains, really wants people to pay for IntelliJ IDEA Ultimate, and Kotlin is a way for them to pay. Now, ignoring for a moment that we actually offer Kotlin in IntelliJ Community Edition for free, when we made the announcement of the Kotlin language, the first blog post, in it, we explicitly said, we hope that by people using our language, it would increase the sales of IntelliJ IDEA Ultimate. I don't know how you can call that a conspiracy theory when we've literally said it ourselves. But yeah, whatever.
I like this. This is the first time I'm hearing of this. So I'm not sure if it should be labeled a vicious rumor if it hasn't reached the people working on the language. But I mean, hey, you learn something new every day.
Martin, probably.
No, we're all for firsts, really, aren't we? Yeah.
Go ahead, Martin. Sorry.
I was going to say we're all for firsts here. Yeah.
Linux Illos is really known for making such big revelations. All right, but Martin, go ahead.
Yeah, I had. I was really interested in your podcast. Specifically, where did your 5-year plan come from? Have you been? Was that inspired by the
in-laws,
neighbors as well, or by us? Yeah, maybe.
Which 5-year plan? Which one are we talking about?
Oh, you didn't have a plan for the 5 years. Okay, you just did 5 years for the podcast.
There was, I think Martin is referring to the 5-year anniversary episode in 2022, where Hadi spilled all of the beans there were to spill.
Oh, yeah. No, I think that was just ad hoc kind of thing.
Yeah, that was just us checking a calendar.
Yeah.
Okay,
and being like, wait a second, it's been 5 years.
But by the way, you want? Should I disclose something that no one has heard before?
Absolutely, you heard it here first, people.
Exclusive to your show.
Absolutely.
Given that we were talking about the podcast, so I don't know. I don't know if you know, but I'm no longer a host of Talking Kotlin.
That's not a big secret, anyway. But
go
ahead.
Whoa, that's crazy.
Right. Now I'm not going to reveal what I was going to say. No.
Go ahead, Hadi. Sorry.
No, it's fine. No, it's fine. I'm just waiting here until you finish completely mocking me. But what the exclusive is that Sebastian, my former co-host, who's with us now on this show, kicked me off the show.
He did.
You heard it here first.
Seb, what did you do?
And that is how you start rumors. That's a master class.
Excellent. You want to share? You want to spill the beans even further? Go ahead.
He said I'm too old. He said you're too old. You're too white.
Oh, you got to be younger than Chris and I, at least. I wouldn't worry about that bit. Yeah.
Apparently, I don't do it for the Gen Zs and the millennials and the Gen Alphas and the Gen Betas.
Sebastian,
you're the one who refuses to do the TikTok dances.
Well, it's been banned, right? I mean, what's the point? I was going to start, but they're banning it on Sunday. I'm like I had a whole career based on TikTok, all planned, every video scheduled, and then the Sunday.
Yeah, that's where the 5-year plan was.
Yeah,
but, you know.
Except just wondering, before you did this, basically, did you run this by JetBrains HR? Because that's the affirmative action lawsuit basis I'm talking about. So
yeah,
how could you?
Listen, I'm a walking, talking HR violation. So
on this
there's a reason why we are audio only, right?
This is the reason why Martin keeps throwing HR and marketing all the same.
That's
exactly.
Yeah.
Changing tack a little bit, Hadi, you ran a very successful marketing campaign in 2022 on protein bars. When I checked the numbers, sales did increase. Hear me out. Sales did increase in the Midwest by single digits, and sales tripled in unknown places. And I got these figures actually right off the darknet in places like Uzbekistan and Kazakhstan. Why do you still have to work? I'm just wondering.
Because I didn't bloody charge anyone. I did it all for free.
Invoicing issues.
Invoicing issues.
That's yeah.
I mean,
not
Hadi sponsored about 5 major brands. I mean, he should be rolling in dough right now.
You know, jokes aside, I'm one day I'm going to wake up and one of these brands is going to come to me and say, "We didn't give you permission to promote us," and I'll be like, "Oh,
pay us instead."
Like that's the
so
nightmare.
You did all this for free? Are you joking?
No, like the whole segment about this segment's brought to you by X started as a joke. I was like, "What do I have on my desk? Let me." Because we're serious. Serious? Yes, of course. We don't charge.
Okay.
It would be a crazy sponsor, though. I got us. If I mean, you know, you folks on a podcast. If you have the hookup for some protein bar sponsors, I mean, like we're all ears.
But I mean, as I said, I mean the sales figures, at least the stuff that I saw in preparation for this episode, were quite astonishing. And as I said, you're talking about tripling sales figures of the brands you mentioned in the Russian conglomerate over there in late 2022.
Okay. Well, now
Mr. Bull comes to mind.
You know what this is saying, Step, right? That you made a mistake kicking me off the show because I am an influencer.
There you go, Sebastian. Bring him back right now.
No, screw that. I'm gonna start.
Promote protein bars.
Yeah. Now it's not the sponsors. Now you're gonna need sponsorship to actually pay me to come back. So yeah, you figure that out. I'm moving to YouTube Shorts. So.
By the way, how did you come across these brands? The wife just bought them and you just mentioned them, or how did it work?
Yeah, like I eat protein bars. So whatever was on my desk at that time of recording, I would just talk about. Okay. So it's.
And I'm just wondering, where did whoever bought these protein bars did get them from? Because some of them are actually confined to the former USSR. And hence these sales figures increase. Seriously.
Oh, right. Okay. So yeah. So Right. Let me tell you about this thing called the dark web. No, jokes aside.
Please do, Hadi. I'm all ears.
Actually, I think that the only one that you're referring to, and we can't get a hold of it anymore after all of these sanctions came, is this one called Shock, which is really, really nice.
Okay.
And you can actually buy it in Serbia. So in Serbia, they do sell it. And we have an office in Serbia. So, every time.
Right
but you can actually order online. Like my wife orders online from Serbia.
Okay.
And they send it. So it's all completely legal. But most of the other ones are like US and UK brands that I use. In fact, the biggest issue that we have, I don't know why we're diverging in protein bars, but the biggest issue...
Because we're still wondering about our monetization strategy.
Oh, your monetization.
It's right in front of us, apparently.
We should get Harry to do the marketing for us because...
Yeah, totally. Like I'm not, I don't know if you...
Hadi, don't apply. Martin will fire you within fortnight. Seriously, I don't. Sorry, Hadi.
No, I'm a big influencer. I'm like I got the numbers. I got the clout. I got the followers. I think I've got 12 now on my YouTube channel, so it's just a matter of time. I just need one viral video. One viral video.
You have 12 followers on your YouTube channel.
Well, it's empty. It's just an account.
This is more listeners than we have. Our audience numbers in terms of, I think, we clock in at 7, right?
Yeah, but
I don't know. Have we moved on from 2 now?
Probably. Okay, jokes aside, getting back to much more serious issues now. When I take a look at the GitHub Kotlin repo, I notice a slow commit frequency, as in you only commit every other hour or something like that. Now, there are code bases, and I won't mention any names, they commit much more frequently, like on a 30-minute basis, 15-minute basis, something like that. Why is the project taking that more like CentOS, as in Red Hat-oriented approach when it comes down to commit frequencies? Any thoughts on this?
Okay, first of all, hit me with the project that's committing so much faster than we are.
You would have to sign an NDA. But you see, Arch, as in the Linux distribution, comes to mind. This is more than a hint that I can give.
All right. Well, we'll do a little exercise here since we're already on here. So if I go to the Kotlin Jetbrains repository, first of all, we see 120,000 commits. Well, we'll begin with that bit. Yeah, it's like just a couple. Exactly. Yeah, just a couple. Essentially, a side project at 120,000 commits. Exactly. Second of all, what you'll see is that if you actually click on commits, you'll see that all of these commits are they are co-authored by some bot. And it's typically either Kodana bot or it's Space Cloud, one of those. And the reason for this is Yeah, so the reason for this is we have like a whole bunch of infrastructure in place that does safe merges. So when someone makes a change, they push that, it goes into a queue which runs on our own infrastructure. It does not run on the GitHub infrastructure, it runs on our own infrastructure. And when everything is green, that goes into like the main branch. And
file verification. Okay, got it. Yes.
There's no LLMs here, I think. Kodana is essentially our ability of bringing like all of the inspections that you have in the IDE into your CI pipeline as well. So there's a whole lot of, where we have a whole bunch of infrastructure that also mirrors a bunch of this stuff internally. So the frequency in which the commits land in the main branch, I would not ascribe too much information to. There is like 100+ people working on this like full time. So as they build things and as they commit them, they go into that master branch.
Aren't these 2,000 LLM instances working on the code alongside? I see.
I also wanted to, I heard, I don't know if this is true, that Linus Torvalds is not really a fan of GitHub, right? And I don't know if they now use it or not, but I was wondering, like, maybe there's so many commits of anything related to Linux because they have to use the command line and they keep screwing up. And it's just correct.
They haven't found the amend yet. Like, what are you?
I mean, they're running their own Git instance, right? So it's kernel.org. So and anything you find on GitHub is just a mirror. So no worries. But I think
same story for us. We also have, like, if you look at it, like we have our internal, like, Git infrastructure and our internal CI infrastructure, and then we mirror this out to the Kotlin Git repo. We do it in a rather sophisticated way in that you can send pull requests against the Git repo, and those those can still land in the actual, like, Kotlin mono repo, or just like the Kotlin repo. There's just infrastructure that supports doing that.
Interesting. But Martin had a question as well, I suppose. Sir?
Oh yeah, I was just actually looking at the Kotlin repo earlier, and I spotted that there wasn't an issues section under there. How do you not have any issues, or how do you deal with them differently?
It's
called censorship. It's simple as that.
There's no issues if you can't report them. Yeah, there's no issues if you can't report them. That's it. No, I mean, if you scroll down to, like, the README, you can see that there's, like, an issue tracker link, because we at Jetbrains build UTrack, which is our issue tracking solution. Okay. And you can also scroll down a little further, and you can see that there is Team City CI build, which shows you the, like, Team City, which is our CI/CD pipeline, which shows you the current state of the project, because we build all of this in our own infrastructure as well. So the answer here is just there's UTrack, because that's how we operate inside Jetbrains with
tools around GitHub.
Yes, with everything.
Nice.
And those are, like, they're standalone, like, tools, which we also sell, by the way, and which also are available as free cloud instances for, like, smaller groups or like smaller companies. But they do all just integrate together. So, like, if you have an issue that has a bunch of commits attached to it, you'll see the commit logs back in the issue, and, like, they all link back and forth. So, yeah.
Okay, interesting. Do we have time for one final question before we wrap this up by doing the boxes, Martin?
Yeah, go for it.
No, just wondering about any final remarks from your side before we come to the picks of the week. If there's any call for action or something, if you are in need of more LLMs helping you with your code or something like that, now's the time.
Please write Kotlin.
Please write.
Go to kotlinlang.org to find out more. It's a fun language. We've not talked about, like, syntax or tooling or the fact that it's really safe, or the fact that it's, like, that it has a bunch of really cool multi-paradigm features that
it does. Yes.
All
disclosure. I used it in the past. I came across it basically when I was looking for a programming language to write
Java, did you?
To write a matrix migration tool. I decided I chose Python eventually, but that was a hard call, because Kotlin, because of the ecosystem, came very, very close, and I really do like the language.
We love to hear it. So yeah, if
you must have an episode on the language itself on your podcast, no?
I mean, we have an entire YouTube channel filled with content around the language. I hope that be useful. You can go to youtube.com/Kotlin.
It will be show notes, yes.
Yep. And from my side, call to action: use Kotlin, don't use Kotlin, but whatever you use, make sure you use it in our tools.
The important bit.
Also true.
Yes. So pay for our tools or pay for a protein bar. I don't care.
Jetbrains, if you're listening, Jetbrains marketing. If you're listening to this episode, I'm sure you will, or you are. The email address is sponsor@linuxinlaws.eu.
I hope you're going to have a link to these proton bars in the show notes.
And with that, it's now time for the boxes. So over to Hadi for his pick of the week.
My pick of the week. Okay. And this segment's brought to you by...
Here we go.
So, actually, my pick of the week is... So I'm learning to play the guitar, and I have been for the past 10 years.
This better be a joke about guitar picks.
It is. It is a joke about a guitar. Oh no, not the guitar pick. No, actually no.
Okay.
But the other day I came across. So I'm subscribed to a website which is called ultimateguitar.com, and ultimatetabs.com or whatever it is, and it has like this whole bunch of like tabs. Like you want to pick a song to play, and you go to it, and it shows you a tab. In the olden days, you had to figure it out yourself. Nowadays, we're all lazy, so it shows you that. And the other day, it had like, these offers like 23 hours left for this, 98% off offer or off our annual subscription. And it had this 2,000 digitalized songbooks. Now, for folks that are as old as me, before the internet, there was these things called books, physical things. And there was like a whole bunch of different guitar books about like tips and tricks on finger picking or blues licks, or guitar books around an entire, an entire group's repertoire. And so, for like, I don't know, it was like 40 euros or something like that. I subscribed to a year, and it's like over 2,000 books of a whole variety of guitar tablatures and tips and tricks and everything. So I also don't know why I'm advertising some third-party website, but hey, it's my pick of the week. And another pick of the week, which I only just got back to watching. If you haven't watched the series Boardwalk Empire, definitely recommend it if that's your thing.
What is it about?
It's set in the 50s, 60s of Atlantic City, the mafia.
New Jersey.
New Jersey, yeah. It's really really cool, and the acting is amazing, right? It's with Nick Thompson, Steve Buscemi. That I don't know how to pronounce his name. Buscemi,
I think.
Buscemi.
He's of Italian descent. Yes.
Yeah. He's amazing in it, and it's such an awesome series. Yeah. I actually love the stuff on Max on it, which was previously HBO. Like, I don't know if you guys have watched The Penguin. If you haven't, you definitely must watch The Penguin.
Name rings a bell, yes.
Definitely needs to watch The Penguin.
Cool, thanks. Sebastian?
Yeah, I have two books, both nerdy, but in different ways.
You talk about these paper things, right?
Yeah. Those, and they are physical copies. Like, I'm not talking about a PDF. Like, I'm talking about the physical manifestation of a PDF, if you can believe it. The first one is Mazes for Programmers by James Buck, and that one is just kind of It's written like James had a time where he, I guess, felt a little like disillusioned or kind of fell out of love with programming after like working in a large company for a while, and this is essentially him rediscovering his love for like working on a computer and making the computer do things in the form of mazes. There's a ton of different maze algorithms. They're all like super visual. Like, they all have different like qualities to them, like the grain, which is kind of like the direction in which it flows, like the average path length, all this kind of stuff. And it's all like it's very graphical, it's very visual. And you also kind of incidentally learn a little bit about like data structures, graph algorithms, like, like pathfinding stuff, which is just it's a real delight. The book is written in Ruby, which is also a very like readable language. I went through the exercises in Kotlin. That translation was very very straightforward, also very smooth, and it's very nice. It's also like it's a full color book. So a bunch of the like illustrations of like how you might be able to color mazes in, or how you might be able to show distances, it's all colored. It's gorgeous. Can really recommend. Also, if you're doing like Advent of Code, it's kind of good to have this on your nightstand, because Eric Wastel, the guy behind Advent of Code, tends to have a slight fable for the for 2D grids and finding paths in them.
Links may or may not be in the show notes, depending on if the books can be found. Martin, over to you.
Yeah. For me, it's I'm a bit of a a fan of crime series. This one is called Criminal Record with someone called Peter Capaldi, and it is about, well, not about New Jersey, but based in London.
And the name
Quite
is?
intriguing story, so very well worth a watch.
And that's on HBO. Sorry, HBO is no longer, but Netflix or something, or Amazon, or
I don't know. I don't have HBO or Netflix. So.
okay.
I just downloaded off the dark web.
Fair enough. And with that, my pocket actually. Fair enough.
What is this rubbish? What is this? Linux, baby, free forever.
None of these commercial services.
DMCA, what's that? Couldn't care less. Exactly. Copyright violations, never heard of it. Okay, over to my box is actually a Bordeaux red wine, but hang on. The flux capacitors just sent me a mail saying that actually while this episode has been released, there's a mail actually coming from Jetbrains. And Jetbrains has just funded us with a cool 2 million euros. So my pick of the week would actually be PyCharm in that case.
I should definitely start charging money for this shit. Like
PyCharm, of course, being the Python IDE for Python programmers of choice. JetBrains, we are looking for the next 2 million. Just keep sending. Thank you.
yes, and by the way, for those listeners that are listening to this, make sure if you click on JetBrains, you add the UTM so that you know this is coming from your influencer.
Exactly. Links, of course, may not be in the show notes.
Yes. No, but add it manually right now. UTM_source equals.
Maybe post-production can
Hey,
cut it out.
I'm paid by referral, people. Like, I need to get my money.
If you want to send us any money, the email address, you know.
No. It's the other way around. You have to pay me.
Probably could just send them an invoice.
Our invoice
it doesn't work that way. Guys, it has been a pleasure to have you on. We must have you back at some stage, hopefully with more money. And keep up the good work, I'm tempted to say.
Yeah, thank you.
This is the Linux In-Laws.
You come for the knowledge,
but stay for the madness.
Thank you for listening.
This podcast is licensed under the latest version of the Creative Commons license, type Attribution Share Alike. Credits for the intro music go to Blue Sea Roosters for their song Solid Market, to Twin Flames for their piece called The Flow, used for the segment intros, and finally to Celestial Ground for their song Sweet Justice, used by the Dark Side. You find these and other ditties licensed under CC at Jamendo, a website dedicated to liberate the music industry from choking copyright legislation and other crap concepts.